we were studying Bhagavad Gita, and we were in this place that uh, Krishna is trying to make the perception of Arjuna clear about the nature of the self. What is the nature of the self? Because Arjuna was very depressed. He was very sad to know about, to see that he's going to kill people. But Krishna is trying to, make his perception clear that it's not that you are killing anybody, because the soul is always, always beyond death. So it's the body which dies and it's the body which takes part. But the soul within it, it never takes part or death. So, the verse where we ended that day was this, that avinashi tu tadvidhi no nasate vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sata ubhayorapi drishtanta tu anayo tattva darshibi. This was the shloka where we had ended at the time, that anything which is true will always have its existence, and anything which is not true will never have its existence. So, what is truth? Truth is something which is always present. So what is that in this world that is present always? If we see that, we will see that there is nothing in this world which is present always. Everything goes in the process of birth and death, creation and destruction. So there is nothing permanent in this world. So because there is nothing permanent in this world, there is nothing true in this world. So it does not have any existence at all. So, and the one which has existed, which is true. What is true? Truth is the self, which is beyond this world. So because truth is the self, it cannot be at any time, it cannot go into the state of, inexistence. Because the existence of that will always remain. So, something which is not true will not exist, and something which is truth will always exist. So we have to always seek that which is truth, not that which is untrue. So we are always running after things which are not true. Like anything we are running after, they have a creation and they have a destruction. So they are not true. So we have to always seek that which is true, and that is the self. That is the self, the consciousness, and that is why our goal of life is to seek the consciousness, is to know and experience the consciousness, not these external objects. Okay, Aditi.
La otra noche empezamos el Gita desde este lugar. Krishna intentaba hacer percibir a Arjuna cómo era la naturaleza del ser, cómo era la naturaleza del yo. Porque Arjuna estaba deprimido y estaba triste. Entonces le hace ver, Arjuna estaba viendo que iba a matar a gente que amaba y había perdido la percepción clara. Krishna le decía que en realidad no matas a nadie, que el alma está más allá de la muerte y que el cuerpo no muere, que el alma nunca nace y nunca muere. Es el cuerpo el que muere. El alma no muere, nunca nace y nunca muere. Así acabamos el otro día. El esloka en el que finalizamos dice que todo lo que es verdad siempre existe y lo que no es verdad no existe. Así que lo que es verdad permanece siempre. Y vemos que en este mundo todo vive y todo muere. La naturaleza de este mundo no es permanente, por lo tanto no es verdad. En cambio, lo que es verdad es el ser, el yo, que está más allá de este mundo. Está más allá de la no existencia y del cambio. La existencia siempre permanece y la no verdad no existe. Así que el objetivo es buscar esta verdad, el ser, el self, el yo, la conciencia. Y esta conciencia es el objetivo de la vida. Esta conciencia es lo que debes experimentar y no es una experiencia de estos objetos externos.
Okay,
Yes.
so now it is talking about the nature of the self. What is the nature of our self? It says, Krishna says, Avinashi tu tadviddi yena sarvamidam tatam. He says that when you see this world in a different as a different objects. You see, different planets, you see different plants, different animals, different human being, you see living and non-living. But everything that is present in this world is all indestructible because they are all consciousness. Whatever we see, whatever we experience in this world, in this universe, is all consciousness, but it has a name and a form. So because it has a name and a form, there is a, there we see difference. We see different things because only because of the different names and different forms. But the existence of everything is the same, and that existence is the self. And what is that self? Avinashi tu tadviddi yena sarvamidam tatam. The existence of everything which is present in this world is indestructible. You cannot destroy, you cannot kill. Death cannot take away anything because the existence of everything is indestructible. Vinasham abhayasyasya na kashchit kartum arhati. He says that anything which is, which cannot be measured, the self cannot be measured. It is beyond everything. So anything which cannot be measured cannot have destruction. So we are all the self. We are all self by nature. We are all consciousness by nature. And that is why we cannot be measured. We cannot be estimated. We cannot be, nobody can know how much big we are or what we are. And that is why, nobody can destroy us. So, this doubt that we have that we are going to kill people, this is a false doubt, because everybody is the self, everybody is indestructible, and that is why nobody can kill anybody. Everybody is eternal. But we have to know our eternal self. We have to know our eternal existence, what we are, and that is the goal of life. Why do we come in this life again and again? We come in this life again and again only to know who we are, what is our real nature. And when we know our real nature, we know that we are always beyond the body, we are indestructible, we are not born at all, we are, not the creation. We are, we are eternal and consciousness. So this is what, this is what it is. So we need to always, focus on ourselves. We need to always focus on ourselves, who we are, rather than focusing on others, who this person is, who that person is. Rather than doing this, we should always focus on ourselves, because we are that infinite. If I know myself, I will know everything in this world. So my aim is to know who I am. Okay, Aditi.
Ok, ahora hablamos de la verdadera naturaleza del ser, de la naturaleza del yo, del ser. Krishna dice que este mundo no es lo que ves, diferentes objetos, diferentes animales, diferentes seres, diferentes formas. Todo en este mundo es destructible. Lo que vemos en realidad es conciencia. Pero ves una forma, ves ideas, ves cosas, ves diferentes nombres y formas, pero la existencia de todo es el self, es el ser. ¿Y qué es el ser? El self, el ser es todo lo que existe, es indestructible, no lo puedes matar, no lo puedes destruir. Está más allá de todo, está más allá de toda destrucción. Todos somos conciencia por naturaleza, no podemos ser medidos, no podemos ser estimados, la conciencia no se puede describir. ¿Qué somos? Nadie puede decir lo que tú eres, porque no se puede destruir, no se puede medir. Cada uno es el ser, eso es lo que somos, el self, es indestructible. Nadie puede matar a nadie. Necesitas saber tu verdadera naturaleza en la existencia del self, del ser. Eso es lo que tú eres. Ese es el objetivo de la vida. ¿Por qué venimos a esta vida una y otra vez? Para saber quiénes somos, para saber cuál es tu verdadera naturaleza. Y tú eres indestructible, tú eres eterna, eterno, tú eres conciencia. Eso es lo que somos. El foco es el self, saber lo que somos. Somos esto, somos infinitud. Okay.
So now he's going, more into the deep depth of knowledge. He says, Antavanta ime deha nityasya ukta sharirina anasino aprameyasya tasmad yudasva bharata. He says, Antavanta ime deha. This body has birth and death. This body has an origination and destruction. But inside this body resides the soul, the self, which is eternal, which is said to be eternal. Though this body is not eternal, the body has been created and the body is going to destroy after some time. But the soul which resides within the body is eternal. He is not created. He is not born. And thus he is not going to die. Antavanta ime deha nityasya ukta sharirina. In this body which has got a birth and a death, the soul which resides within the body is always eternal. It is said to be eternal. Anashino aprameyasya tasmad yudasya bharata. He says this self is indestructible. You cannot destroy him. You cannot kill him, because he is the source of everything. He is the source of everything, and that is why you cannot kill him. He is beyond everything. That is why you cannot reach him. He is everywhere. He is omnipresent. He is in everybody. So there is no way that you can kill this person. You can destroy him. So he cannot be destroyed. And aprameyasya, he cannot be known also. The self cannot be known. You can hear about the self, but you cannot know, because when you become yourself, the self, there is no other person to know him. To know somebody, you need to have knower, knowledge, and the known. You need three things. You have to have one knower, which will be separate from the known. And the connection between the knower and the known will be knowledge. But the moment you know the self, but the moment you know the self, you become one with the self, and that is why you cannot know him, because the knower, the known, and the knowledge, these three becomes one, and that is why there is no way that you can know the self. Is always unknown. So the self which remains, which stays in this body of birth and death, this soul is eternal. This soul is indestructible, and this soul cannot be known. He is beyond everything. So this is what our own identity is. We are eternal, we are indestructible, and we cannot be known. We can only be, we can only become that, but we cannot know who we are. Because when we want to know who we are, we become one with the self, and that is the time when there is no knower, there is no known, there is no knowledge. There is only one. So when there is one, there cannot be any knowing process. Okay? So this is what it says. Krishna is trying to take Arjuna into depth of the knowledge. He says, Arjuna, you are the eternal, you are the indestructible, and you are the unknown. And it's not only you, everybody that you see within the body, everybody staying within the body is eternal. Everybody who is present within the body is indestructible and is unknown. And if this is all one, they are not two. Your soul and my soul is the same. There is no difference at all. Okay, so Aditi.
Entonces, ahora empieza el conocimiento profundo y le dice que este cuerpo no tiene nacimiento, este cuerpo tiene nacimiento y tiene muerte, tiene origen y tiene fin. Pero el cuerpo, dentro del cuerpo reside un alma, que es el ser y que es eterna. Y este cuerpo, igual que ha sido creado, va a ser destruido, pero el alma que reside en el cuerpo es eterna, nunca va a morir. Este cuerpo tiene nacimiento y tiene muerte, pero el alma no tiene nacimiento y no tiene muerte, es eterna. El ser es indestructible, el ser no puede ser destruido, está más allá de todo. Por todos sitios está, es omnipresente porque solo existe el ser. No se puede matar y tampoco puede ser conocido, no puede ser destruido ni tampoco conocido. El self, el ser, no puede ser conocido. La conciencia, lo que tú eres, no puede ser conocido. Porque cuando está ahí, solo está él. Cuando hay una persona para conocerle, en el momento que esa persona le conoce, esa persona ya no está ahí. Para conocer necesitas tres cosas. Necesitas el conocedor, el conocimiento y lo conocido. Cuando tú conoces el ser, te conviertes en el ser. Solo está el ser. Te conviertes en uno con el ser. Esto es porque por eso no lo puedes conocer. Estos tres se convierten en uno. Por eso el ser no puede ser conocido. Esta alma es eterna, esta alma es indestructible y por eso no puede ser conocida, porque está más allá de todo. Esta es tu verdadera identidad. Más allá de la mente, más allá de estos tres, más allá del conocedor, no hay conocimiento y no hay conocido, solo hay uno. Esto es lo que Krishna le dice. Krishna le dice a Arjuna sobre este conocimiento superior, le dice, tú eres eterno, tú eres indestructible, tú no eres conocido, tú eres todo y todo está ahí, es indestructible. Cada cuerpo, cada ser es lo mismo, es indestructible. Y esto es uno. Tu alma y mi alma son la misma, solo hay un alma y esta es la verdad suprema.
Okay.
Yes.
Now he says, Ya enam vetti hantaram, yaschaina manyate hatam. Ubhoto na vijanito, nayam hanti nahanyate. He says, if a person thinks that he is going to kill somebody, and if a person thinks that he is getting killed by somebody, both don't know that the self cannot be killed or the self cannot kill anybody. Because, the self is always one. So it cannot be killed. It is eternal. It is divine. It is beyond, the body. The body can be killed, but the self cannot be killed. The self is beyond everything. It cannot be killed, and the self also does not kill anybody. So, we have to be very clear about this, that, we do not have any death. Death cannot kill me, neither can any person kill me, because I am not death. I am the soul, I am the self. I am beyond death. I am beyond death. So when I have this clear perception about myself, that is the time when I become free from all attributes. That is the time when I become free from all fears, all doubts, all confusions, all my nature. My nature is the nature of, not of the mind, not of the self, but it is the nature of the mind. So I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am not the ego. So their character is also not my character. I am beyond that. I cannot be killed, neither can I kill anybody. Aditi.
Si una persona piensa que puede matar a otra o que alguien puede ser matado, tú tienes que saber que el ser no puede matar ni ser matado. No puede ser, no puede morir y no puede matar. Está más allá del cuerpo. El self, el ser, el yo, el alma, está más allá de todo. No puede matar ni morir, nadie, porque está más allá de la mente. Porque lo que soy, el ser, es el alma. Está más allá de todo esto. Cuando tengo una clara percepción del ser, cuando tienes una clara percepción del ser, la mente se libera de los atributos, se libera de los atributos de este mundo, se libera de los miedos, se libera de la naturaleza de la mente, porque está más allá de la mente, del intelecto y del ego, está más allá de todo estas características.
So now he talks about one verse which is very important and which is very famous. It says, Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya ajo nitto shashatoyam purano na hanyate hannamane sharire. Till some time, Krishna is talking about the same thing again and again. He's trying to make the perception of Arjuna very clear. And it is not about Arjuna, it is also about us. He's trying to make our perception about ourselves very clear. And that is why he's saying the same thing again and again, just to make our perception about ourselves clear. Because we are used to, impose everything that we experience in our life. We experience this world, and that is why we impose ourselves in the world. We impose ourselves as if we are this body, we are of one of this world. We have a name, we have a form, and we think that we are that. And that is why Krishna is trying to, remove these ideas which we have about ourselves within us. He's trying to remove these ideas. How? By speaking the same thing again and again, so that we come to this idea, we come to this firm idea, firm contemplation that we are not the body, we are the self. We are the self. The body has birth and death. The body has happiness and sufferings. The body has a lot of, the body goes through a lot of experience. But the self is unattached to everything. It is beyond everything. And that is why now he's saying the same thing again. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. The self does not take birth, or the self does not die at any given time. Never the self takes birth, never the self dies. Means you have never taken birth and you will never die, because you are the self. Because you are the self, you have never taken birth and you are not going to die ever. You are always eternal. You are always eternal. Na jate mriyate va kadachin. You have not taken birth, neither will you die. Nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya. It says, once a person, once there is an existence of something, this existence will never become inexistent. Like you have an existence of yourself. You know you exist. You know you live. So because you exist, you can never become inexistent. You will always exist. When you will not have this body, you will exist as a soul, as a spirit. Your existence does not depend upon the existence of the body. The body is where you reveal your existence, you manifest yourself, but you can also stay, you can also live without the body. So because you are existing, you will never lose your existence. It will always remain, even if death comes to you. Death may come, you may die, but this death will be the death of the body. It will never be your own death, because you are not the body, you are the one who resides within the body. So na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya. You have no death, you have no birth, and because you are existing, you will never cease to exist. You will always remain, you will always remain as soul forever. Ajo nitto shashvato yam purano. This is your nature. What is your nature? Ajo. That is, you are birthless. This is your nature. You are never born. You are birthless. Nitya. You are eternal. Means death does not come to you. Even if death comes, you don't die. You are eternal. You are birthless. You are eternal. Shashwata. Shashwata means undecaying. Your body decays. With time, the body decays, but the self remaining inside the body never decays. He is always undecaying. He is always there, present. Ajo nitto shashvato yam purano, ancient one. You are that ancient, self, that ancient entity which the Vedas talks about. The Vedas are very ancient, scriptures. These ancient scriptures talks about an ancient person, the most, important person, the most powerful person, the most, divine person. And who is this divine person? This is you. Who is this powerful person? This is you, your soul, yourself. So you are that ancient person. You do not have any birth. You are eternal. You do not have any decay. And you are that eternal, you are that ancient person. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Even if your body is being killed by somebody, even if somebody kills your body, he can never kill you. You will always remain the same. Aditi.
Hasta ahora va a hablar de una frase, de un esloka que es importante y que es famoso. Krishna le dice a Arjuna de una forma muy clara que todo lo que estamos experimentando en esta vida lo impones, que todo lo que experimentas en este mundo lo impones te lo impones como cuerpo y como forma y te piensas que eres eso, pero en realidad no eres eso, es una imposición. Así que Krishna trata de hacer entender estas ideas y cambiar la idea que tiene de ti mismo, de nosotros mismos, repitiendo la verdad una y otra vez. Le dice sobre que contemple la verdad de lo que eres, de lo que es el ser, el self. Le dice que el cuerpo no nace ni muere, que el self está más allá de todo. Le dice que el self no muere, no nace, nunca. Porque si eres el self, no puedes nacer y morir. Nunca el self nace ni muere, es el cuerpo. Si existes, nunca puedes dejar de existir. Tú sabes que existes, por lo tanto, esa existencia no va a desaparecer. nunca la existencia se convierte en inexistente. Tu existencia no cambia. Cambia el cuerpo, pero la existencia no. Así que el cuerpo puede vivir o no, pero la existencia no es tocada. Porque existes, nunca vas a dejar de existir. Aunque venga la muerte, tu existencia va a estar ahí. Entonces, no eres el cuerpo, no eres el que está en el cuerpo, más allá del cuerpo. No conoces la muerte, no tienes nacimiento. Entonces, porque existes, existes siempre. Esa es tu naturaleza. Tú estás libre de la muerte, eres eterna, eres eterno. Por eso contigo no hay decaimiento. El cuerpo decae, pero en ti no hay decaimiento. Siempre estás allí presente, siempre existes. Tú eres, le dice, tú eres la identidad ancestral. Esta persona ancestral, esta persona eterna, el ser es lo que tú eres. Tú eres esta identidad ancestral, esta persona poderosa. Eres tú, es tu ser. Así que no hay muerte, no decaes, no hay nacimiento y eres esta persona ancestral. Si el cuerpo muere o si alguien mata al cuerpo, tú no puedes morir, tú no puedes ser matado porque tú eres siempre el mismo, siempre eres la misma.
Okay?
Ok.
Then he says, Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajam abhayam. Same thing, again and again. Veda avinashinam nityam ya enam ajam abhayam. He says, know the self. What? Veda avinashinam. The self is indestructible. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be killed. Veda vinashinam nityam. Because it is eternal, the self cannot be killed. Ya enam ajam abhayam. This self is birthless and this self cannot be measured. It is infinite. The self is, the self is indestructible, divine, eternal, birthless and immeasurable. Katham sa purusha partha kang ghatayati hantikam. And when the self is like this, when the self is divine, indestructible, birthless and immeasurable, infinite, so how can it kill somebody? Or how can it be get killed? It is not possible. That is why, you need to know about the self very clearly. The self is indestructible, it is eternal, it is birthless, and it is immeasurable. You cannot measure it. It is infinite. And thus, the self cannot, kill somebody, neither can it get killed. Aditi.
Entonces Krishna le dice lo mismo una y otra vez. Le dice Krishna, conoce el ser, conoce el self, conoce el yo. El self es divino, el self no se puede destruir, no puede morir, porque es eterno, no puede morir. El ser es infinito y no es mesurable. Y el ser, esa es su naturaleza, no puede matar y no puede morir. Esto no es posible. Es importante que tú conozcas la naturaleza del ser, conozcas que es divino, que es indestructible, que no puede morir, que es eterno, que no es mesurable.
Now, he's talking about a very important shloka. He's talking about very important. So, Arjuna said, okay, then if we are all eternal, then why do we die? Why do we take? Why do we see that there is birth and there is death? Why it is like this? So, in this, because he has this this doubt that if we are eternal, if we are the souls, then why do we, take birth and why die? So Krishna tells the reality of birth and death. He says, Vasangsi jirnani jatha vihaya, navani grinhati naroparani. He says, like, when you have a garment, you have a cloth, an outfit, and you are wearing it. But at one time, this garment is going to be old. It will wear out. It will be worn out. It will tear. It will lose its color. It will be old. So what will you do? You will throw this garment. You will take another new garment. Vasangsi jirnani jatha vihaya, navani grinhati naroparani. When you have, when your garment is old, it has, tear, it has torn, it has wear and tear, and it has lost its color. So what will you do? You will leave this, and you will take a new one. In the same way, tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani sanjati navani dehi. It says, in the same way, the the self, when it sees this body has become old and it is unsuitable to live, then it leaves this body and it enters into a new body. It takes a new body. It does not die. It just, it just leaves this body and it takes another better body. Okay? So this is called Bhakti Aditi.
Entonces, viene un sloka también ahora muy importante, que Arjuna le dice, ok, entonces si somos eternos, si lo que soy es eternidad, ¿por qué morimos? ¿Por qué está allí la vida y la muerte? Si somos el alma, ¿por qué hay vida y muerte? Y Krishna le habla de la realidad de la vida y la muerte ahora. Krishna le dice que cuando tienes un atuendo, un vestido, una ropa, un atuendo, y lo llevas, va a llegar un momento que va a perder su color, que se va a bajar, que se va a volver viejo. Entonces, ¿qué hacer? El alma hace lo mismo. Vas a tomar otro atuendo. De la misma forma, el alma va a tomar otro cuerpo. Cuando tu atuendo pierde color, vas a dejar ese atuendo y vas a tomar otro. De la misma forma, el self, el ser, el yo, cuando un cuerpo está viejo, deja ese cuerpo y toma un nuevo cuerpo, no muere. El alma no muere, solo deja ese cuerpo y toma uno mejor. Esto es lo que se llama nacimiento y muerte.
Okay? Then he says, Nayanam chinnanti shastrani, nayanam dahati pavaka. Na chainam kledayam tapo, na shoshayati maruta. It says, Nayanam chinnanti shastrani, nayanam dahati pavaka. Na kledam chedayam tapo, na shoshayati maruta. This soul, this self cannot be injured by any weapon. You cannot, you cannot injure this soul by hitting by any weapon. Because you can hit the body, but you cannot hit the soul, the self. Okay? So this self or the soul cannot be hit by any weapon. Nanam dati pavaka, and you cannot burn this self also. You can burn the body, but you cannot burn the one who resides inside the body. Nanam na chainam kledayam tapu, and this self cannot be moistened. You cannot make this self wet by water. If you put water, the self is not going to wet, because you can moisten this body, but water cannot touch the self, and that is why the self does not get moistened. And na shoshayati maruta. And the ear does not dry up the self. Ear can dry up the body, but ear cannot touch the self, and that is why it cannot dry. So any external things like weapons or fire or water or air, any external things does not have any effect on the soul. The soul is always liberated, free from all this. It is always beyond all this. It does not get affected by any of this. It is always free. It is always liberated. Aditi. Aditi.
Entonces esta alma, el ser, no puede ser tocado, no puede ser injuriado por ninguna arma. Tú puedes herir el cuerpo, pero no el alma. Entonces ninguna arma lo puede tocar. ¿Puedes quemar el self? No, no lo puedes quemar. Puedes quemar el cuerpo, pero el alma no puede arder, no puede ser quemada por el fuego. El self tampoco puede ser mojado. El cuerpo se puede empapar, pero el self no se puede empapar, el ser no se puede empapar, el agua no le va a tocar. De la misma forma, el aire puede secar el alma, no. El aire puede secar el cuerpo, pero el alma, el ser, no puede secarse por el aire. Entonces, todos estos objetos externos, todos estos objetos, las armas, el aire, el fuego, todos los elementos no pueden tocar el alma, porque el alma siempre es libre, siempre está libre de todo, no es afectada por nada, es absolutamente libre, siempre está liberada.
Okay?
Yes.
So then he says the same thing again. He's again saying the same thing just to make our perception about the self more clear. He says, Acheddoyam adadjoyam ashosh akleda ashosha evacha. Acheddoyam, it cannot be injured by any weapon. The same thing that he has said before. Acheddoyam, this self cannot be torn into pieces. It cannot be cut into pieces. You can cut the body, but you cannot cut the soul. The soul cannot be cut into pieces. Acheddoyam. Adadjoyam. You cannot burn the body. The same thing that he said again, you cannot cut the body into pieces by any weapon. You cannot burn the body. Akleda ashosha evacha. And you cannot moisten the body, the self, or you cannot dry the self, because the self is free from all this. The self is free from all external condition. This water, fire, earth, air, weapon, these are all nature. They have all come from nature. But the self is beyond nature, and that is why nature does not have any effect on the self. So the self cannot be injured by any weapon. The self cannot be burnt. The self cannot be moistened, or the self cannot be dried up. Then what is the self? The self is nityam. Nitya sarvagata sthanu achaloyam sanatana. The self is eternal. The self is all pervading. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's within your body. It's outside the body also. The self is everywhere. Nityam sarvagata. That is, it is everywhere. Sthanur. It does not have any vibration at all. Our mind has vibration. And that is why we have many thoughts. There is always vibration within our mind, but there is no vibration in the self. When you meditate and when you become one with the self, you will see that you have no vibration at all. You are absolutely in the state of non-vibration. And because there is no vibration, there is no mind, there is no thought, There is no ego. Because this mind, intellect, ego, these all are created because of the vibration. When there is no vibration at all, there is no mind, there is no ego, there is no intellect. So Nitya Sarvagata Sthanur, that self is eternal, that self is all pervading, that self does not have any vibration. Achalo yam, it does not move also. Where will it move? It is everywhere. It is infinite. There is no space for the self to move, and that is why it is infinite. Nitya Sarvagata Sthanur Achaloyam Sanatana. The self is Sanatan, unchangeable. There is no change in the self. The body has a change. Mind changes. Intellect changes. Ego changes. These are all, they all always they go through changes. The world, the external world, that changes. But the self does not change. It is Sanatan. It is unchangeable. Aditi.
Entonces dice lo mismo una y otra vez. Dice, no puedes ser injuriado por un arma, no puedes ser cortado a trozos, no puedes cortar el cuerpo, el cuerpo se puede cortar, pero el alma no se puede cortar. No puedes quemar el alma, no puedes secar el alma, no puedes secar el self. El self, el alma, está libre de todo, está libre de toda condición, está libre del fuego, del aire, de cualquier arma, está libre de la naturaleza, está libre de la naturaleza de este mundo. El self está más allá de este mundo, está más allá de esta naturaleza. Por eso no afecta al ser. No puede ser herido, no puede ser mojado, no puede ser tocado. Así que, ¿qué es el self? ¿Qué es el yo? ¿Qué es el alma? El alma es nityam. Nityam es eterno, eterna. El self siempre permanece en todo. Dentro y fuera del cuerpo está en todo, en todos los sitios. No tiene ninguna vibración en absoluto. La mente vibra, pero el self, el ser, no vibra. Cuando meditas, cuando te conviertas en uno con el self, verás que no hay en absoluto ninguna vibración, porque la mente vibra, el cuerpo vibra, el pensamiento vibra, pero el self no vibra. Todo lo creado, todo lo que ves, tiene vibración, pero el self, el alma, no tiene ninguna vibración en absoluto. No se mueve tampoco. No hay ningún cambio. Es intransformable, incambiable, no cambia. Si observas la vibración, si observas la mente, el ego, la forma, cambia todo el tiempo, todo el rato está cambiando. Pero el self, el alma, no cambia, no tiene ningún cambio, la ausencia total de vibración no tiene ningún cambio.
Okay?
Yes.
Then it says, then what is the self? What is the self? Now it has started to define the self. Before, it was saying what the self was not. It did not have any birth, it did not have any death, it cannot be killed. Now it's talking about the nature of the self. What is the nature of the self? Avyaktoyam, unmanifested. Anything which is manifested is not you. You are always, unmanifested. It cannot be manifested because you are the supreme. You are the infinite. So how will you manifest yourself? And where will you manifest itself? Yourself. You are always in everything, in everywhere. So you are in the state of you remain in the state of unmanifestation. So all the manifestations that you see outside is not you. So don't take these so seriously. Don't get attached to them because they are not you. You are unmanifested. You are unmanifested. So everything in this world is manifested. So they are not you. Because they are not you, please don't get attached to them. Please don't get attached to them. Don't get attached to them. So the self is avyaktoyam. Then it is achintoyam. The self cannot be contemplated. You cannot perceive it. You can know, you can listen about it. You can listen about it, but you cannot perceive it. It is beyond perception. Achintoyam. It cannot be perceived. It cannot be known. It cannot be known. It is beyond perception. It is unmanifested. It is beyond perception. And abhikaryoyam uchate. And it is said that the self is changeless. There is no change in the self at all. There is no distortion in the self. The self is never distorted. It always remains pure, perfect, divine. It does not get distorted into non-self. It does not get distracted into anger, greed, lust, violence. No. The self is always divine. The self is always pure. Yourself is always divine, eternal and pure. It does not have any distortions. Hello.
Yes.
So the self is unmanifested. The self cannot be perceived, and the self is you know is not distorted. It is not changed. It does not have any change. It is unchangeable. Avyaktoyam, achintoyam, abhikaryoyam uchyate. It is said, people who have known the self, they say that the self is unmanifested. The self cannot be perceived. The self is unmanifested. The self cannot be perceived. And there is no change in the self. It is always changeless. Tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochitum arasi. And by knowing the self like this, never grieve, never become fearful, never become sad, never become, scared. Be free, be happy. Be happy that you are the unmanifested. You are the one who cannot be, who cannot be comprehended, and you are the changeless. Knowing this, be happy. Don't be sad. Okay, so this is what Krishna tells Arjuna.
Krishna dice que hasta ahora ha hablado de todo lo que no es, de todo lo que el self no es. Y ahora va a empezar a hablar de todo lo que el self es. ¿Qué es el self? ¿Qué es el ser? ¿Qué es el alma? ¿Qué es lo que tú eres? Lo que tú eres no es manifestado. Tú eres siempre eterna, eterno, no manifiesto. Tú estás en todo siempre. Tú permaneces en todo, no manifestado. El todo que ves afuera no eres tú. No lo tomes tan en serio. Todo esto del cuerpo, de la mente, de todo lo que observas, no lo tomes tan en serio. Mantente desapegado de esto, porque tú no eres todo esto manifestado. Tú eres lo no manifiesto. En lo no manifiesto eres tú. Así que por favor, no seas apegado a esto. El self es achintoyam, que es que no puede ser contemplado, no puede ser percibido. Tú puedes escuchar, pero no puedes percibir al self. Tú puedes ver, pero no puedes percibir al self. No se puede percibir. Así que no puede ser conocido, no puede ser percibido y no es manifiesto. El self, lo que tú eres, no cambia, no es cambiable. No tiene ningún tipo de distorsión. Siempre permanece puro y perfecto, divino. Lo manifiesto, se ve violencia, se ve distorsión, se ve cambio, pero en lo no manifiesto no. La gente que conoce, la gente que ve el self, sabe que no hay cambio en él, no puede ser percibido y no puede ser conocido. Así que el self no conoce el miedo, nunca hay miedo, nunca hay tristeza en el self. Y Krishna le dice, sé feliz, tú eres lo no manifiesto, tú eres todo lo que no puede ser percibido y comprendido. Tú eres todo esto, así que siéntete feliz, sé feliz. Eso es lo que le dice Krishna a Arjuna.